I found some interesting Kamala Harris connections to the California Forever Billionaire Utopia project that had Solano County, California residents concerned. And the same story that I was covering last year, you guys might recall me posting about it. And I kept saying that I was going to release a video on it and release an essay on it. But the whole thing kind of got out of control. It snowballed. It spilled over into this much broader investigative angle that I took. Because as it turns out, the California Forever story, which really began in 2018, is just one dimension of the larger future world's prospect that America is no longer a sanctuary, right? 2018 and forward, a military revolution has sort of been occurring, and that's sort of what they call it in terms of doctrine. And we're reshifting the focus, or they are, to mainland U.S. homeland affairs, which we have neglected and left wide open and vulnerable to attack uh, as a result of the post 9/11 PNAC Middle East focus, the counterterrorism paradigm. In other words, at least that's what I call it. But now the paradigm is shifting, aka there's a military revolution, a doctrine change to shift that attention to the US homeland. Our critical infrastructure is wide open and able to be exploited. And by the way, all of this, I'm not just making up, this is like a compilation of the last 2 years, a year and a half actually, of various reports from NGOs, the military itself, intelligence agencies, but mostly think tank, nonprofit type groups like RAND corporations, people that have like real major sway in terms of military strategy. And thinking like our entire nuclear arms strategy came from the RAND Corporation, and they make these reports to try and like solve problems, right? And part of that problem solving is anticipating disruptive and emerging technology and next generation technology. I really like those reports, and I've spent the last 2 years reading them for you guys. I just haven't been able to actually reading them takes enough effort because they're not all exciting, right? It's not like I'm sitting there. It's a page turner. The scary thing is though, like some of them are, and they're incredibly enlightening. It's probably the closest you can get to ever having a crystal ball. So anyway, 2018, this Flannery California Forever, this billionaire utopia project. What it is in 2018, a bunch of people, billionaire Silicon Valley investors, nobody knew that at the time. A company called Flannery Associates comes into the area and starts buying up parcels next to Travis Air Force Base, one of the most critical military installations on the West Coast, right? Uh, and it's a big mystery. Nobody knows who they are. Oh my God, what are they doing? What are their intentions? Who are these mysterious investors? And 2018 went into 2019, right? And just as the first half of 2019, all of a sudden their parcel purchases in Solano County dramatically accelerated. All of a sudden, they're buying thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands of acres, tens of thousands of acres, all within the vicinity of Travis Air Force Base. Nobody knew their identities at the time. Nobody knew where the money was coming from. This is millions and then tens of millions, hundreds of millions. Guys, close to $1 billion this group spent. From 2018 to 20, or just in 2019 alone, this group spent about $800 million buying incredibly sensitive land in Solano County, right outside of Travis Air Force Base. But it gets worse because as the purchases went on, they ended up surrounding the base, and nobody knew anything. From 2018 to 2023, nobody knew who they were or what their intentions were. And what was most mysterious about this case is the mysterious ignorance that all of them had, ranging from local representatives all, mayors, okay, like Mayor Moy, Catherine Moy, the Rio Vista mayor. And then you have congressmen as well. Sorry about that. I had to pause the stream there. My fault. Then you have congressmen that were legitimately concerned over this. They went on television over and over, appeared in media articles over and over, calling for formal investigations. Who are these people? Because in less than a year, they became the largest landowner in Solano County, California. They nearly spent close to $1 billion Okay, and do you want to know how much land that amounts to? Why the expansive land they bought surrounding Travis Air Force Base, a critical military installation, because guess what? That's like the gateway to the Pacific, is what they call it. That's like the main deployment point for the Indo-Pacific region. All of our humanitarian aid efforts. Travis was like one of the first to send aid over to 9/11 in New York. They were and they're over on the West Coast. Like that's a key position. The most air traffic is going in and out. They shuttle VIPs from Travis as well. And at the height of ongoing incursions of US airspace, US facilities, think of the Chinese spy balloon incident, 2023, last year. Then the high altitude shoot down events, some featuring Canada and the US joint operation shooting unknown aerial phenomenon out of the sky, unknown air. That's literally what the NORAD report said about them. So there's a theme developing here. A lot of it's aerial, but more broadly, it's about homeland defense, homeland security, or lack thereof. All of this is a physical manifestation of the neglect to the US homeland from the counterterrorism paradigm. And not only that, it's purposeful. In my opinion, from my reason, we can see that it's purposeful. What we're seeing happening right now, I mean, look at the borders, basically wide open. Okay, the UK is going through a major crisis with migrants. It's not anywhere near like that here. Plus, we're a way bigger country, so space, physical geography matters. And that's just the thing, right? Physical geography. Since America's inception, we have enjoyed the luxury of peace and essentially invincibility uh, since America was founded, just by geography alone. We have allies to the north and south of us, and to the just off our west coast and our east coast, we are flanked by gigantic oceans that separate any potential adversary by miles and miles and miles. We're a floating fortress, and we don't have to worry about like interregional conflict. We're not fighting Canada or getting into spats with Mexico, right? So for a long time, gunpowder is established, okay? Fast forward, developments, technologically, weaponry develops, okay? We go from horseback boys to riflemen. Nobody can touch us. America is armed to the teeth, rifles behind every blade of grass, as they say. Separated by the oceans, so land invasion historically has always been impossible, and so has, as well, any form of kinetic strikes. Even the most advanced of our adversaries historically have never really had the capability to strike us with, say, a ballistic missile or anything in any substantial way. And then, you get the Soviet Union, you get the Cold War, right? The nuke fears, where, it starts to become a reality that America can be hit here at home. But we quickly develop defenses against that, right? Things were kind of under this was unfolding over decades, essentially, obviously. But still, now we have a country, an adversary, that has nuclear capabilities and they can hit us at home. But we got defenses, but then as things time goes on, what happens is not only do other countries get more powerful, get more resources, whatever, and start to acquire those same weapons. So a lot like from now until 2050, a lot of the middle countries in the Middle East, non-nuclear countries, will become nuclear countries. New allies will form, collaborative partnerships between nations will form, treaties. So it's falling into nukes and very powerful weapons, WMDs and so on, are falling into now these countries that historically have never had access to them, and now they're entering the playing board, okay? And then you introduce rapid evolution of technology into the mix, and what you have is not only state actors, but non-state actors coming into possession of very powerful, now affordable, now more mobile than ever technologies. Biological weaponry is more accessible than ever given the advancements in genetic engineering, gain of function, and so on, okay? I mean, we just came out of a COVID pandemic that seems to possibly have originated from like a roguish, this is given the, if you subscribe to the idea that not all of it was planned, you know what I'm saying? Let's just bear with me here, okay? What I'm trying to say is Eco Health Alliance, just one organization working in collaborative partnership with like a few others, funded by a few others, is enough to thrust the world, in into hell for a few years. Of course, that was largely pushed along by our reaction to it in the psyop on it. But so now you've got like suitcase nukes and suitcase chemical weapons, this, that, the other thing, due to technological advancements falling into the hands of non-state actors. Okay, America's borders are wide open. We've neglected to secure our vital, critical infrastructure in both the civilian and the military domain. Remember, guys, this is not coming from me. This is just me having memorized the key points of all these various reports, which I'll be covering in the EMA series for those of you that follow me on Patreon and Substack, the newsletter. Let me see, because I'm tying this up, how is this related to Kamala Harris and her connections to a billionaire utopian city? California Forever? I haven't even heard of California Forever. Like, nobody was really talking about it. And I don't know why, but what I'm saying is the California Forever story, the prospect of building a billionaire utopian city in secret, surrounding a military base while all of this is happening, guys. On top of that, we already had instances such as Grand Forks Air Force Base and the Chinese. They have already been an issue. They tried to build a corn milling plant next to one of our Air Force bases in Grand Forks, North Dakota. So they're trying to infiltrate using these various like civilian domain companies for passive surveillance, subterfuge. But the real concern here, guys, is attack on American military's readiness. The most likely attack they're going to face is like very subtle subterfuge and fuckery that disrupts functions of daily life, knocks out the internet, knocks out the power, derails a train, okay? Things like that. Kinetic attacks are going to increase as well as the population flees more and more into urban hellscapes, thus prompting these urban hellscapes to grow, thus those urban hellscapes growing to a point where they're butting up to the edges of an American domestic military bases. Thus, they end up having to, out of necessity, form collaborative partnerships that over time dissolves the barrier between the military and the civilian domain. Okay? Blending things further, making things messier. Dual use technologies, synergistic scientific revolutions. Dual use technologies, see, like this. I can take this device here, my phone, and I can visit a porn website, watch Netflix, okay? But I can also use it to conduct online, cyber attacks, right? A bad example, but a laptop, a computer, a tablet. Cyber attacks are now, given the increasing hyperconnectivity of the digital world, post-internet digital world, everything is connected to one another, aka if one aspect of a network is exploited, you bring down the rest of it, okay? So a prime example of that, the sort of Internet of Things, the blending of the physical world with the digital world, right? As our buddy Klaus Schwab, the World Economic Forum has always said it, that's a primary dimension of the fourth industrial revolution, right? Hacking pacemakers with a laptop. I'm on a laptop, I'm using the internet, but I hacked into your heart. That's the future. That's the future. And if it's not your heart, it's your oxygen tank that you're breathing. It's not inside of you, but it's something you rely on. Your subway train, now all of a sudden, nobody can make it into your Olympic city, right? That happened. There was a cyber attack as people were trying to, like, in mid-transit. You'll see that like the influx of attacks typically happen like around significant times. Now, mind you, this is all also happening in the same time frame as this weird, mysterious drone incursion that we're seeing. The Chinese spy balloon sort of falls into that, although that's not a drone. The high altitude shoot down events tie into that. of course. All of that is still secret, by the way. We showed the actual crash recovery of the Alaska shoot down here on this channel. If you go to my YouTube, my BitChute and my Rockfin, I would suggest BitChute and Rockfin because I'm actually suspended from YouTube for another 2 weeks, right? So what was I going to be saying there? So what we're seeing is like a dramatically, like, I don't want to say dramatically, but not gradually either. Since 2018, there's been a huge influx of sightings, mostly of drone swarms and drone incursions of US domestic military bases, and they seem to have no issues doing it. They seem to have no issues doing it. Langley Air Force Base, 2023, and I'm going to show you clips of all this, so please stick around, guys. But I'm on a roll here. This is more clear and less verbose than I anticipated. This is quite condensed. I've struggled with trying to put this and frame it properly for a video. That's why I never followed up with the Flannery billionaire utopia story last year. But yeah, Langley Air Force Base 2023, several drones operating independently, meaning they were piloted independently. We're not talking about an autonomous drone swarm quite yet, although that's also on the horizon with the advent of the AI, was able to intrude on the air of an Air Force base, the restricted airspace of an Air Force base. Not once, though. It wasn't just once. And there wasn't any kinetic activity or any malice. It seemed to be a message, right? Psychological warfare. Look what we can do. No problem, you might be thinking, right? The Air Force probably had some fun shooting them all down or neutralizing them. The perpetrators have been arrested, taken care of, under investigation, in custody. None of that is the case. The drones went away. The Air Force couldn't find it, but don't worry, they came back the next night. And then, maybe a day passes, and then they came back again. And then again. And you know what's really strange about that? Is the Air Force, over a course of 2 weeks, could not neutralize the drones that were effortlessly impeding on their airspace, to the point where they had to call in a NASA aircraft that specializes in surveillance, reconnaissance. Like, what is going on there? They never found who was behind that. Then we have Chinese nationals flying drones over Navy vessels in port, Busan Port, June 2024. This case differs in that it's more conventional. A Chinese national said, whoa, that's a cool ship, literally, basically, and flew it over, took photographs, videos. He said he was curious. This was the same day that the South Korean leader was visiting the same ship that guy was filming, and the same day that a trilateral military naval exercise between Japan, South Korea, and America was going to take place in the coming days. That's why the Roosevelt was over there. Then you have the incidents filmed by Jeremy Corbell. See if I have that on cue. I don't know. I might not. All these drone swarms. I'll bring that up in a second. So let me just wrap it up, not wrap it up here, but get to my point, because I can't make this video very long. All of this, again, you might be asking, how's this related to Kamala Harris, and what does it matter that she has ties to this billionaire utopia city I've never heard about? Well, the thing is that the investors behind that utopian city, get this is a real surprise. This is going to really, really surprise you. At least 3 of them had Epstein ties, right? Which, is kind of problematic. I'll break that down here for you. I'm going to play some clips. And in fact, not only did they have Epstein ties, but Kamala Harris and her team, right now, in the coming days, has plans to meet with one of the investors of California Forever, the billionaire utopian city that somehow eluded the FBI, the State Department, the Air Force, and other agencies trying to identify who they were for 5 years. Something fishy is going on there. Something Governor Newsom wasn't even aware of until they came out publicly in 2023 saying, all right, guys, it was us the whole time. We just bought a place twice the size of San Francisco, surrounded one of your military bases, right under your nose, without you even knowing who we were, blah, 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 blah. And it featured also Laurene Powell Jobs, Steve Jobs' widow, Reid Hoffman, founder of LinkedIn, and business associate of Jeffrey Epstein. He visited the island. Kamala Harris is meeting with him. Reid Hoffman is a prominent Kamala Harris donor. All right. So with that said, I don't want to hold this up any further. Okay. Remember to like, share, and subscribe. This is coming up on Rockfin First. I'm suspended on YouTube. Linktree, everything is in the description. I put effort into that. Also, if you wish to donate, you can do so. Venmo, Cash App, PayPal, paypal.me, memory hold 7707. The rest is below. I appreciate your help, your assistance, and those already supported me on Patreon for the extra goodies. See you on the other side of this.
New at 6, a mystery in Fairfield. Over the past few years, someone has been buying up a lot of land around Travis Air Force Base in Solano County. Now, here's the catch. The government says it knows almost nothing about the buyer or what the buyer wants to do with the land. Here's NBC Bay Area's Jody Hernandez.
We need that land around Travis Air Force Base protected.
But Fairfield Mayor Catherine Moy is extremely worried that a corporation that's bought thousands of acres of land encircling Travis Air Force Base could be up to no good.
It's over 50,000 acres of land. They're the largest landholder in Solano County now.
Over the past several years, a corporation called Flannery Associates, LLC, has spent nearly $900 million on land around the Air Force Base. But nobody knows precisely who they are or what they intend to do with the property.
The bottom line question, who the hell are these people? We still don't know.
Congressman John Garamendi says national security could be at risk. He says the FBI and the Treasury Department are investigating.
It's very
so this is who Kamala Harris is connected to. One of the investors behind this, Reid Hoffman, a familiar name you might recall.
Concerning the land that they have purchased, which is right up against the fence on 3 sides of the base, positioning whoever is there to be in a place to gain intelligence, information, or possibly to disrupt operations.
Now over
readiness, operational readiness.
The past few days, Solano County residents have been getting surveys, both online and by phone, about plans for a ballot initiative to create a new city that would include tens of thousands of new homes, a solar energy farm, and 10,000 acres of parks and open space.
They talked about providing down payment assistance to local residents.
George Kennedy was polled by phone. He says the caller claimed the city would feel like a college town, include a new aqueduct system, and restore ecological habitats. He says it all sounded way too good to be true.
It just, doesn't pass the smell test to me.
They want to build a city, yet they haven't talked to anybody here.
Moy says if the new landowners incorporate their own city, they can rezone the land and issue their own building permits.
They have plenty of land for a city, but they're in for a fight.
Both local and federal leaders say a lot's at stake. Travis is currently transporting munitions to Poland for Ukraine. It's the busiest transit airport for the U.S. Air Force.
For an enemy to be able to be right next to the base, to monitor, to listen in to the communications, or possibly to disrupt the flow of equipment, it would certainly be possible to do that if you own the land adjacent to the fence line of Travis Air Force Base.
Now, as I said, who's connected?
The identities of powerful people who palled around with Jeffrey Epstein continue to be revealed. And a name we are very familiar with here on this channel now shows up as having visited the Epstein Island in 2014. His name is Reid Hoffman. You remember this guy right here. We've seen his photograph several times. And if you remember from the Trump prosecution mind map, which is available at spotlightlawyer.com/Trump if you want to check it out. Reid Hoffman is this person who actually was funding Roberta Kaplan and the litigation brought by E. Jean Carroll against Donald Trump. And that was a hidden
Recent reports reveal that this morning we're learning more about a mysterious company that has invested nearly $1 billion in buying farmland near a California airbase. Flannery Associates has paid $800 million for 54,000 acres of land outside of Travis Air Force Base in Fairfield. That's about 50 miles north of San Francisco, 30 west of Sacramento. Recent reports reveal that Flannery is a group of Silicon Valley investors planning to build a new city on the land. However, federal officials cannot confirm who is behind the company, and some are raising concerns about foreign involvement.
And why might they be worried about foreign involvement? Let's find out. If I could find it.
After years of secrecy, the billionaire-backed investment firm that's behind a massive land grab in Solano County is now in the hot seat, facing the second round of questions from congressional leaders.
It was a continuation of my disappointment.
For the first time in 5 years, Congressman John Garamendi sat down with the CEO of Flannery Associates, former Goldman Sachs trader Jan Schramek, to discuss his vision for a so-called utopia. A new city in eastern Solano County focused on affordable housing, clean energy, and sustainable infrastructure. But Garamendi says their proposed plans could hurt Travis Air Force Base.
It's very, very clear that they intend to go to an initiative to change the zoning requirements for that entire 55,000 acres. In doing so, they may very well diminish or eliminate the protections that Travis Air Force Base presently has. So I remain very, very concerned.
Did they specify to you specific plans they wanted to do with that land surrounding the base? Why they bought it in the first place?
No specific development plans were given to us, and I don't believe they have any specific development plans. I think they had a pie in the sky, a fairy tale.
Congressman Mike Thompson shared similar concerns. The I-Team spoke with him last week.
If the intent here is to build a city, why do you think the land surrounding Travis Air Force Base was a priority years ago?
Well, I asked them about that because their city plans, their new city plans are considerably distanced from some of the properties that they were purchasing. And they had, I guess, an explanation for why they bought some of those properties. And it ranged from anywhere from housing that they wanted.
Now remember, this sketchy maneuvering on part of Reid Hoffman, Laureen Powell-Johns, the people behind this billionaire utopia plan, Flannery Associates, aka California Forever, they did all of this knowing they were scaring people for 5 years before they told anybody, hey, no worries here, nothing to see. And it's because of stuff like this. See if we have to run an ad first. This is News Nation.
In the city of Grand Forks, North Dakota, a group of determined residents fought back against a project planned by a Chinese company suspiciously close to an Air Force base. And they
sound familiar? This was Grand Forks, North Dakota, Air Force Base in Grand Forks. Chinese wanted to build a corn milling plant, quote unquote.
Senior national correspondent Brian Enton is live in Grand Forks. And Brian, the opposition was quite vocal.
It was, Nicole. We are outside Grand Forks Air Force Base now. And at the end of the day, this is really a story about everyday American people who took on China, who took on their own city council because they were so worried that this Chinese corn mill was going to go in very, very close to this military base.
Mind you, sorry about that, the volume was a bit low. The citizens, they fought back. They were so concerned about this corn milling plant being so close to a military base.
Senior national correspondent Brian Enton is live in Grand Forks. And Brian, the opposition was quite vocal.
It was, Nicole. We are outside Grand Forks Air Force Base now. And at the end of the day, this is really a story about everyday American people who took on China, who took on their own city council because they were so worried that this Chinese corn mill was going to go in very, very close to this military base.
See, and what's interesting about that is it was planned to go in pretty close, miles away from the base. And the corn milling plant, newsflash if you haven't, put it together, a corn milling plant is a lot smaller than tens of thousands of acres, comprising a swath of land twice the size of the city of San Francisco. And yet these people, they reacted as if it was the sky was falling. The citizens were, we gotta protect the homeland, because food security comes into play here, right? So Flannery Associates, Reid Hoffman, Laureen Powell Jobs, both connected to Jeffrey Epstein, okay? It's not even counting the others. They're trying to build a utopian city, probably like a technocratic, green energy, sustainable city next to a military base. Let's bring it back to the strategic trend reports, the RAND reports, the homeland is no longer a sanctuary reports, the blurring of the military and civilian domain because every device now has military capabilities, offensive capabilities. What is a better physical manifestation than the dissolving barrier between the military and civilian domains than a billionaire Silicon Valley luminary, smart city, technocrat, walkable hellscape being built around a military base, the most critical one? The one that has to contend with China, the one that we would all go through if we were sent to China. When every other problem we're seeing, like that North Dakota incident, the corn milling plant, that's Chinese. A lot of these drone incidents, Chinese. We took the fight against China, they said, right? And yet, in this case, the Flannery Associates case, this Silicon Valley group managed to catch everybody by surprise, shield their identities, shield their intentions for 5 years, stoke fears around national security concerns that legitimate congressmen of the 8th and 6th District of California went across media outlets, numerous appearances, bang, 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 bang. John Garamendi and Mike Thompson saying, we've got a national security issue. Look, we had this North Dakota Grand Forks case with the Chinese corn milling plant. And now we've got this. They refuse to tell us who they are, refuse to talk to any local urban planners, leaders, whatever, urban developers, nobody. Nobody at the local, state, federal level, nobody, apparently. And they're able to shield their identities how? Delaware state law. They created a company, an LLC called Flannery Associates, okay? And that's going to be our connection point between Kamala Harris, one of them, and this billionaire utopia plan. Okay, Flannery Associates was used as the forward-facing, public-facing company that the anonymous billionaire Silicon Valley luminary investors were using to send the money and buy the land with. Okay. Hold on here, I'm pulling up a map for you. So the official narrative that they expect us to believe or just accept is that every single person from the local level to the state level to the federal level all the way up to Governor Newsom, no, I'm not kidding, Governor Newsom apparently had no idea that a plot of land twice the size of San Francisco was just bought by anonymous individuals nobody knows their identities of, their intentions of, all in the midst of like a Chinese infiltration of the U.S. food sector, the Midwest, etc. Come on. All right, so I've got a map of every parcel that Flannery owns, actually. So the purple tiles, as you see here, is every single parcel that Flannery Associates, aka the forward-facing LLC, being used by the billionaire Silicon Valley investors, Reid Hoffman, Laurene Powell Jobs, Michael Moritz, and so on, to buy this land. So this is Rio Vista Junction. Let's go ahead and get our bearings here. There it is. Okay, so this is Travis Air Force Base right here, as you can see. Okay, Fairfield is over here. The woman that was speaking in the first clip, her, that's Mayor Moy. She's the mayor of Fairfield, which is literally right next to Travis Air Force Base. Actually, I posted one of my theories on Twitter when it was still Twitter. No, I think it was X. I posted one of my theories on there about Solano County, kind of just floating. It wasn't too crazy, but I was floating some more out there ideas. And she responded in the affirmative, you know, so that's interesting. Her ignorance on the matter seems genuine. In other words, it's not like everybody is feigning ignorant, maybe at least not with her. But that's the question. How did everybody apparently not know this was happening, including Governor Newsom? But anyway, resuming, as you can see, they do surround the base in a way. Okay, see the parcels up here, all the way up here. And what I did was I cross-referenced this with like natural resource maps. Okay, wind, solar, like there's a bunch of solar farms that like all down here is a wind farm. Note that they bought all that, right? Because it's going to be a sustainable city. All right, and they're going to need to generate, you know, have lots of space for solar panels and so on. But my point is the city is going to be down here, right? Okay, the main city, if you look at the California Forever map, is going to be down here. And yet they made it a point, despite the heightened sensitivities and fears around Chinese incursions in the U.S. homeland, namely the agricultural sector. Food security is a big topic right now. The North Dakota incident sparked a broader conversation with results, actually, from the Biden administration, in fact. So my question is, why did they surround the base if their city is going to be down here, right? So I began, as I started looking into this, because remember, at the time, we had no idea who they were, including myself. Nobody knew who they were, what their plans were. So I said, I wonder if we can reverse engineer or deduce what their plans and intentions are, or perhaps who they are, based on the type of parcels that they're buying, right? So if they're going after, you know, one type of one type of resource, and only one type of resource, right? That kind of maybe tells you something about the intentions. And as I began, and this is not really like very complicated, and most people would have thought this. I wasn't, it's far from the only one. Anyway, I looked it up and I was basically found, hey, look, you know, they're all this natural resource, the better pieces of land. Most of this is barren and unzoned, right? And the other element that hinted to their nature was the fact that they were buying these parcels for 3 times the market value, which makes you wonder, why would this group that has seemingly endless cash flow be buying parcels of land that have no water access, no streets, no real anything? It's barren, unzoned land. In other words, you have a bunch of hurdles to jump through before you can do anything with it, whatever. And yet they made sure to spend 3 times the market value, aka, what does that tell you? What does that tell me? What did it tell me at the time? It told me at the time they really wanted the land surrounding Travis Air Force Base. Why? Why might that be? Then I got to thinking, you know, what they're doing actually fits the proposals of the broader security paradigm that we're going into, shifting from the counterterrorism paradigm to the homeland is no longer a sanctuary paradigm. Let me see if I can, I'll pull this up. In other words, because the focus is here back home, we need to transform our military bases, and because the barrier between military and civilian domains is blurring, the military is now taking advantage of, guess what? Silicon Valley startup companies. Why? The R&D to battlefield pipeline, that has done the military well up until recently, is no longer fast enough from development to testing to application to battlefield fucking people up. Not fast enough. We can't keep up with China because guess what? China is top down. Every company in China is the military, essentially. That's why we worried about a Chinese corn milling plant. Don't mind me, I'm just milling corn. No, you're not. Inherently, because the Chinese ruling governance system, you're an extension of the Chinese military, okay? So because that's all blending, and because this is happening, and this mysterious ignorance of everybody seemingly not knowing, it made me think that, like, maybe everybody did know. Or at least the key players knew, like Newsom. How did he not know? And I'm reading these reports. Okay, the military is buddying up with Silicon Valley. They're utilizing startup tech companies as a way to quicken the R&D, technological development, weapon system platforms, capabilities pipeline to keep up with China, because they can do it super quick because they're just like, fuck you, do this. I'm not a democracy, whatever. Over here, we have to follow certain protocols, thank God, right? But how do we do that? Well, and still keep up with China. Only way to do that, guys, is through startup companies, Silicon Valley startup companies. And then all of a sudden, mysteriously, the biggest names in Silicon Valley pop up out of nowhere, but are pretending that they're not them. They're shielding their identities, buys up all the land, and everybody's like, oh my God, I didn't even know this was happening. Travis Air Force Base, oh my God, I didn't even know this was happening. Fairfield Mayor, Rio Vista Mayor, oh my God, I had no idea. Town Council, Town Supervisor, this looks like a hostile takeover. I had no idea about any of this. Governor Newsom, let me actually cue up what Governor Newsom had to say about this. So this clip was literally, I think, taken at a Politico event, the media outlet. This clip was recorded just last year. So we're led to believe, or expected to believe by the establishment, that from 2018 to 2023, that point that this video was recorded in 2023, Governor Newsom had no idea that something so expansive was happening next to the most critical military base, or one of them, on the West Coast. Let's take a look. In it, he's asked, did California Forever, aka Flannery Associates, did they give you a heads up about what was happening? Let's hear what he has to say, because surely, you know, the answer is yes. Obviously, I mean, are you kidding me? It has to be. Of course Governor Newsom knew about it, right?
Did they give you a heads up?
No, I read about it.
After it was already announced?
I was told about 5 minutes before my phone lit up that there was an article about to post. And I was immediately intrigued. They said, you'll be more intrigued after you see it.
Wow. Immediately intrigued. Immediately intrigued that, like, a swath of land twice the size of San Francisco just disappeared from underneath my feet. I'm immediately intrigued. I had no idea about this. His response was, like, standoffish, too. Now, he references an article there. All of a sudden, all of his phones are ringing simultaneously. You're not going to believe this. Politico article's about to drop. If he's getting a heads up that an article about it is about to drop, why didn't they give him a heads up about any of the project before that? That's crazy. So the article he's referencing is this one here from, I think, the New York Times, because in August 2023, after 5 years of silence, the Flannery Associates anonymous billionaires mystery group scooping up all that land, they came clean. They said, guys, let me introduce you to us, the Silicon Valley luminaries, Reid Hoffman, Laurene Powell Jobs, and the rest of them. And I think this is the article where they announced it for the first time.
And we're learning a wealthy investor group is buying thousands of acres of farmland near Travis Air Force Base in Solano County. And California lawmakers are now proposing restrictions to protect that land. Since 2018, a group known as Flannery Associates has bought more than 50,000 acres of farmland near the Air Force Base. Some proposals being considered to protect the farmland include more disclosure of agricultural land purchases and prohibiting foreign ownership of farms. A survey indicates that Flannery is considering a futuristic new city on the farmland, but others say that threatens the future of the air base.
Travis Air Force Base cannot operate surrounded by skyscrapers, wind turbines, tract homes, right up to the fence line. No military base can.
The ABC 7 News
And what gets even more interesting, which leads over to my theory, is sorry, I guess what I'm trying to say here is it's the New York Times that published an article about it, and hold this up. Yeah, the article is called "The Secret Silicon Valley Elite Who Want to Build a City from Scratch." Sorry about that. Here it is. New York Times, the Silicon Valley elite who want to build a city from scratch. Mysterious company has spent $800 million in an effort to buy 1,000 acres. You know, in other words, I'm pretty sure this is the first article, or one of them, that really brought their names to the forefront. Michael Moritz being a brainchild, but really the whole thing was masterminded by a guy named Jan Schramek. Jan Schramek. But here they go into all the people that are backing the project. Patrick and John Collison. Laureen Powell Jobs. Let's see who else. Of course, I'm forgetting the names off the top of my head. Hey, if you're still listening, can you give me a list of the investors behind the California Forever Billionaire Utopia City project in Solano County, California?
Hey yo, what's up, little false flag? The investors behind the California Forever project include prominent figures such as Mark Andreessen, Laureen Powell Jobs, Patrick and John Collison, Reid Hoffman, Michael Moritz, Nat Friedman. These investors are part of a group aiming to develop a new city in Solano County, California. Anything specific you want to know about the project or its investors?
Yeah, I want to know just about everything, but just give me one moment, I'll follow up. Pretty funny, right? Okay, so there's your breakdown. Those are some pretty prominent names, right? And here's Laureen Powell Jobs, for those of you that don't remember when this happened. As you can see, we've got Laureen Powell Jobs here.
Yeah, those are definitely some big names involved.
Oh, hey.
Laureen Powell Jobs.
Calm down. Listen, I asked you once, doesn't mean I want to. I hung out with you once, doesn't mean I want to hang out and be your friend all the time. Okay? Cool. This is a picture of Laureen Powell Jobs on the left, Ghislaine Maxwell on the right. Interestingly, the context behind this photo is kind of like mysterious, but the consensus is that it's real. You might remember the incident involving a particularly controversial, I can't speak today, sorry, controversial article The Atlantic put out. Kind of like, I don't know, it was like an apologetic for Epstein or sex trafficking, something like that. I don't know, let me see. Hey, what was the issue with The Atlantic? They caught some flack, I think, like a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Laureen Powell Jobs, people were saying, I don't know, The Atlantic, of course, they would publish an article slighting, you know, people concerned about the Epstein case. Laureen Powell Jobs owns a stake of The Atlantic or something. Is that true? See if he responds. What's Laureen Powell Jobs' involvement with The Atlantic?
Laureen Powell Jobs owns a majority stake in The Atlantic through her organization, Emerson Collective. Emerson Collective is a social impact organization she founded, which invests in various areas, including media, education, immigration reform, and health.
Got it.
Laureen Powell.
All right. Let's go back to Reid Hoffman world. What's all this matter, right? I'll show you why it matters, because Reid Hoffman, well, he's a Kamala Harris supporter.
So are you all in on Vice President Harris, and what specifically are you doing to support her campaign?
Well, I was already a great supporter of the Biden-Harris ticket. I'm continuing those efforts and redoubling them. I'd already maxed.
Just to double down, this guy was on, just to remind you, this guy was on Epstein's Island. And he did a sleepover at Epstein's New York City townhouse. So it wasn't just one thing, and it was a business opportunity. He visited Little St. James after Epstein was a convicted sexual offender and known to be doing his things to the underage girls, the kids. And yet Reid Hoffman was like, yeah, I'll take that business opportunity. Sounds good. I like that cash money though, baby. Went to the island, comfy sleepover at Epstein's New York City townhouse in New York. No, I don't think Ehud Barak, the former Prime Minister of Israel, was there wearing his cute little headscarf to obscure his face, like these billionaires' identities did for 5 years using Delaware state law. But yeah, they had a little comfy sleepover. How adorable.
Next out to Biden-Harris.
And he's a big Kamala supporter, and Kamala Harris's team is meeting with him this week.
Am I allowed to put in?
And he's building a fucking technocratic smart city outside of a military base in the midst of a time period when the barriers between the civilian and military domain are dissolving. So he's building a city right next to the military base, right during the peak of the US military utilizing Silicon Valley startup companies to leverage military weaponry, platforms, capabilities to keep up with China in the greater modernization race of our military, to keep up with them and secure the homeland, okay? I'll have to do an extended thing on this, of course, but where were we? Lost my tab. Sorry, I paused it again. I lost myself there. I don't even know where I'm picking up necessarily. I think we were watching the Reid Hoffman clip. So we know that he is a big Kamala Harris supporter. He's connected to Jeffrey Epstein, visited his island, slept over at the townhouse, and is now meeting up with Kamala Harris and her team to talk about the future.
More money to Harris, but I will continue to contribute to the various, kind of the issue and other support organizations, which will continue the advocacy for what kind of America we want to see.
Continuing to unite our party.
What do you want to see when it comes to the vice presidential pick? Who do you want her to pick?
Whether it ranges from great governor choices like Governor Whitmer or Governor Shapiro. I think there's Mark Kelly. I think there's exceptional cabinet members like Gina Raimondo.
It's interesting, two of the names that you mentioned, Gina Raimondo and Governor Whitmer. What do you make of the idea of maybe having two women on the ticket?
Well, I think it's great to demonstrate the fact that in America, we can also join the other amazing democracies and have a woman as president.
And we have an election to win.
And women leadership is something that's very dear to us and very capable. And so I think that would be awesome.
What about a business leader as the vice president, such as Mark Cuban?
I think that would be awesome and bold. Vice President Harris has the ability to signal that not only have they done great things in their 4 years of the administration, but new things and making her own mark. And that's one of the things I think is so exciting about her candidacy. And so I think that could be an excellent way of doing that.
So we've heard a lot about tech titans backing former President Trump. Others are obviously anti-Trump. What's the vibe?
So you get the idea. This is happening during like a wider, lots of bigger picture things happening. Obviously, a lot is going on recently. But if you were to Google Silicon Valley right now, or at least earlier today, or Kamala Harris, there was articles popping up about Silicon Valley and how Silicon Valley needs to rally around Kamala Harris and support her. There's multiple articles about that. Now, Reid Hoffman's support doesn't just end at promoting Kamala Harris, going way back with her. Okay, check it out. The spokesperson for Flannery Associates, okay, remember the billionaire utopian city Flannery Associates, that's the LLC they used to shield their identities before people like Reid Hoffman, Laurene Powell Jobs, and so on, wanted it to be known formally that, they were buying all this land. What the motive was, we don't know. But anyway, here is the source here. And by the way, all the sources, show notes, everything will be on the Substack, guys. You can subscribe to the newsletter for free for essays, videos, data dumps you won't get here, or you can actually, do more than just follow. You can subscribe to it. You get access to the Elite Mindset Analysis, Globalist book, summary analysis series, extra essays, extra articles. Point is, this will be available. All the sources will be over there for free. Just go to substack.com/@ Memory hold. Appreciate that. All of it's in the link tree in the video description as well. But look, right here. Harris campaign officials holding event with Epstein connected. Epstein Island visiting. Epstein townhouse, comfy, cozy, sleepover having. Reid Hoffman. The presidential campaign's policy director and deputy chief of staff are sitting with Hoffman on a, quote, business leaders for Harris Zoom call. Interesting. In a Friday news dump, LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman under fire for explicitly stating on national television that Kamala Harris should fire Federal Trade Commission Chair Lina Khan if she became president, tries to backpedal. Quote, I've never spoken with Vice President Harris about Lina Khan. Already there's drama. This is funny. I don't want to read on. I'm not saying it's not worth your time, but really I just needed to show you confirmation here that this was happening. But I also want to show you that calls for Silicon Valley to unify behind Kamala Harris is also happening. So I'll bring up something like that here. Actually, before I do that, New York Post article confirming Reid Hoffman visited Epstein's private island. I forgot to tell you the origin of that information stems from, if you recall, the Wall Street Journal expose from like spring 2023. It included information from Epstein's calendar of meetings. He had these meetings penciled in, and there was a slew of powerful, influential names from the world of finance to even intelligence. Of course, intelligence. I mean, that's kind of Epstein's bread and butter. Whoops, screech. Didn't mean to do that. Former William Burns, Bill Burns, Epstein was meeting with him. That was revealed for the first time. We didn't have records of that previously. He was going to meet with now director Bill Burns before he was the director of the CIA, for example. The Woody Allen stuff and the connections to Jeffrey Epstein, that came out from the Wall Street Journal calendar expose. And it was Reid Hoffman and his meeting, his visit to the island, etc., that also, if I recall correctly, came out of that. But anyway, yeah, LinkedIn billionaire Reid Hoffman visited Epstein's private island, planned to visit New York City mansion. Hey, bot, are you still with me? Tell me about LinkedIn co-founder Reid Hoffman. What's the deal with Jeffrey Epstein? Is he one of those little slop pigs visiting the island?
Hey, little false flag, what's happening, man? You streaming or what? Reid Hoffman, the co-founder of LinkedIn, did have some connections to Jeffrey Epstein. He hosted Epstein at a dinner in 2015 and visited Epstein's private island in the Caribbean. However, Hoffman has publicly expressed regret for associating with Epstein, stating that he was unaware of Epstein's criminal activities at the time. He has since condemned Epstein's actions.
All right, thanks. I'll check back in a moment if I need you for anything.
Sounds good. I'm here whenever you need me.
Whether I want it or not, I guess, nowadays. Anyway, you could look at his resignation, this letter that was released by, the hell, it's one of those long names. National Legal and Policy Center. This is basically just shitting on Reid Hoffman like crazy. I had a summary here, hold on. Actually, you know what? This will be a good demonstration of GPT's capabilities here. This might be a big flop. I'm going to take a risk here for him because I literally can't find it, but let's see if it remembers. I attached the letter we're looking at here just a second ago, but I don't know where this summary is. I had a nice summary. Hey, do you remember, I can't remember if it was this chat thread, do you remember the screen caps? It was like 5 of them that I sent you about Reid Hoffman from the National Legal and Policy Center. I think it was directed to Microsoft. If you do, can you tell me the key points, like what it was saying? I don't know if it remembers. It's weird, sometimes it doesn't pick it up. It's because I'm talking to you guys.
Regarding Reid Hoffman.
Well, it's from the National Legal and Policy Center from Miss Sandra E. Peterson.
Got it. What are you interested in knowing about Ms. Sandra E. Peterson's letter from the National Legal and Policy Center regarding Reid Hoffman? Are you looking for a summary, details about the content, or some specific aspect of the letter?
Just looking for a summary. Give me the key points.
Letter from Ms. Sandra E. Peterson at the National Legal and Policy Center regarding Reid Hoffman outlines concerns about his influence and activities. It likely addresses ethical or legal issues connected to his actions or affiliations, possibly focusing on political contributions, business practices, or other activities deemed problematic by the organization. The key points would center on the context of...
No, it's not giving me specifics. That sneaky little Pete. Like I told you, it might have flopped. But this is a pretty gnarly letter. I think it was sent to like Microsoft. We write to request that you immediately seek the resignation of Reid Hoffman from his directorship on the board of Microsoft Corporation, and that he be removed from consideration as a director candidate for reappointment at the 2023 annual shareholders meeting. And they literally cite his public political activism, his association with Jeffrey Epstein, and they basically rip him a new one. It's crazy. But as I said, that's not the only tie-in between Kamala Harris and California Forever, the billionaire utopian city outside of Travis Air Force Base that nobody knew about. Her person, her PR messaging advisory person, Brian Brokaw, was the spokesperson for Flannery Associates. That's right. What are the chances of that? So this is Brian Brokaw's website. If you go down, you're going to see that this fellow is quite well connected. Brian Brokaw brings expertise in campaign consulting, strategic communications, and public affairs to his political and private sector clients. Brokaw served as a political and communications advisor to prominent elected officials, technology investors, and global tech firms, social justice advocates, labor, blah, 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 blah. Interesting, renewable energy companies, public utilities. You can see very much why he would be affiliated with John Sromick and the California Forever Billionaire Utopian City crew, right? Weekly's top 100 list. And the UK Guardian has called him a top Democratic strategist in the state. And in 2019, he was named to the American Association of Political Consultants. Check this. Brokaw presently serves as political advisor to California Governor Newsom. Guys, do you understand the significance of that? So Brokaw presently serves as a political advisor to California Governor Newsom. Okay, so Brian Brokaw, the the public spokesperson for Flannery Associates from 2018 to 2023, when they were keeping Reid Hoffman, Laureen Powell jobs, and all the investors a secret, and everyone was concerned about national security. Oh my God, is this a Chinese company? What's going on? How do we know that these investors are American? National security threat, national security threat. Travis has no idea. Brian Brokaw was the public spokesperson for that. Flannery Associates. He was the one saying, nah, man, you got to come through me. I can't tell you who the investors are, but I speak on behalf of them. And right here, it's saying that Brian Brokaw serves as political advisor to California Governor Newsom, not even in the past, but presently. And wasn't it, what did Governor Newsom say about this whole thing again? What was it about California Forever? I can't remember. Oh yeah. He said he had no idea about any of it, but it sounds interesting.
No, I read about it.
After they give you a heads up?
No, I read about it.
Did they give you a heads up?
No, I read about it.
After it was already announced?
I was told about 5 minutes before my phone lit up that there was an article about to post.
Okay. So Let me say it again. Brian Brokaw is the advisor to Governor Newsom. Brokaw presently serves as political advisor to the man that you just saw say he had no idea about the plan, identities, or the motivation that Brian Brokaw is also working for at the same time he's advising me. Something fishy is going on here. But where's the banger? It gets better, because take a look at this. Let's go back and see how's he connected to Kamala Harris. Because let's face it, guys, you're on the memory hold channel. Of course he's connected to Kamala Harris, right? So let's pull that up. He also served in like had involvement in like key moments too. He previously managed the campaign for California's Proposition 64, which legalized the adult use of that bud, that tizzy, that zaza, that shebang, that hot snaz, that shit. Yeah, legalized marijuana. Prop 64 was spearheaded by Newsom, right? That's big, as well as philanthropist Sean Parker. Here's the good stuff, guys. Brokaw served as campaign manager for Vice President Kamala Harris's successful candidacy for California Attorney General in 2010. Let me say it again. Brokaw served as campaign manager for Vice President Kamala Harris's successful candidacy for California Attorney General in 2010. You see where I'm starting to have like an issue really believing the universal, uniform, consistent ignorance that all of these authoritative groups, noteworthy figures that occupy roles that ordinarily would enable them to be privy to developments exactly like a plot of land twice the size of San Francisco being bought out by mystery investors with plans to build likely a smart city, a 15-minute city, furthering the technocratic agenda. Just look into the ideology, the opinions of the investors. I don't have time for that here. It's starting to make more sense to me. Well, maybe not. It's just starting to make more and more sense, I guess. The secrecy, maybe it wasn't really secret after all. They just didn't want to come right out and say it. But if that's the case, then why? Because this is how I look at it, guys. Think of it like this. I have an essay on this, so I'll read it from that. According to the mainstream narrative, we're supposed to believe that every professional or official in a role intersecting with defense, intelligence, government, and urban development, whether at the local, state, or federal level, including entities like Travis Air Force Base, the U.S. military, and even Governor Newsom, simply had no idea about the massive land acquisition happening in their own backyard, and that their expressions of complete surprise when finding out about it were totally authentic. We're supposed to believe that despite the group becoming a national security concern by early 2019 and remaining one for 4-5 years that followed, because remember, they wouldn't tell us who the frick they were, right? So people were still, hey, what's going on here? Not a single person told Governor Newsom despite all that. That's what we're supposed to believe. Nobody told Governor Newsom what was happening around one of the most important military bases in his state and on the West Coast. I'm not going to sit here and pretend to understand every aspect of government and like the fine mechanics behind its successful operation, but the prospect that a chunk of land twice the size of San Francisco can be purchased by invisible investors without the governor so much as hearing whispers about it, despite having Brian Brokaw as an advisor, Brian Brokaw being the spokesperson for the very group, company, grabbing all that land up. They expect us to believe that. That's crazy to me. But that doesn't fit well either. I mean, if you think about it, Doesn't sit well with me. First, if it's true that Governor Newsom truly had no idea about this until the land was purchased, this obviously would call into question wider transparency issues. And obviously his ability and any authority ability to protect us as citizens anywhere in the country, especially given China's already active campaign to infiltrate the U.S. agricultural and food sectors. But what's really strange about this detail in particular is that no official, be it from the government or military or the local state government, possesses more or less information than the others. The uniformity, like it's hard to accept, the uniformity of their ignorance is a sight to behold. Across the board, all of them knew nothing. There wasn't anybody that knew a little bit more than others or had a different source that had better information than others. No, they were all uniformly, across the board, comprehensively ignorant to this gigantic, massive undertaking by the people, the wife of the man that gave us a ubiquitous type of dual-use technology, the iPhone. Or Reid Hoffman, the co-founder of the thing we use every day if you're a professional. LinkedIn. No idea. So it almost feels as if they're sticking to a story here. This is speculative. But the lack of variation in the ignorance is suspect to me. Now, the establishment's official story, of course, attempts to normalize this widespread ignorance, using the excuse that it was due. Their excuse was that the land acquisitions commenced at first, very slowly and measured in 2018. So for the first year, it was like they resembled normal transactions of parcel purchases, moderately sized. Then all of a sudden, in early 2019, boom, 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 all the land, super fast. And they're using that as an excuse. They're saying, well, we didn't expect it. We saw them buying, but they weren't buying anything like crazy. So we just turned our head and looked somewhere else. And oh my God, before I know it, a plot of land twice the size San Francisco was gone. We don't know who took it. It's all around that big, super important military base. Come on. Come on, man. But what bothers me about this, right, is I said it prompted national security concerns. You saw the clip from Congressman Garamendi yourself, right? So I guess it's too much to say. My point is we can go on about this story, so let me just stop there before it gets too crazy. But my point is I'm tying in the Billionaire, Flannery Associates, California Forever, Reid Hoffman, Kamala Harris story, right, together. Two separate, seemingly separate stories. But as we can see, it looks very much like there's some type of unity happening between the tech sector and the current admins, either on the Trump side, on the Republican side, or, you know, with Peter Thiel and that gang, or on the left side with Kamala Harris's very lengthy professional relationship with Brian Brokaw, the same person that's a spokesperson for the Billionaire utopian plan. Kamala Harris also meeting up with Reid Hoffman, co-founder of LinkedIn, associate of Jeffrey Epstein, visited the island, planned or actually did visit his New York City townhouse for a comfy pie sleepover. At least that's what I remember. Okay. She's also an investor of the Billionaire City. He's also an investor. Like, it's crazy. That's crazy. Laurene Powell Jobs as well, owner of The Atlantic. The Atlantic published an apologetic type of piece about those people that were like us that worry about Epstein, child trafficking, and those dastardly conspiracy theories. That was basically might as well have been saying, hey, stop making fun of my friend. Well, you know, we know that Laurene Powell Jobs is also connected to the Epstein syndicate, just through the image I showed you earlier here. Laurene Powell Jobs on the left, Ghislaine Maxwell on the right. Okay? And then let's go even further and think about, remember, don't ever forget, Epstein, the Epstein story essentially is about, at its root, not fully, is the evolution of technology, cutting-edge technology, and science. Jeffrey Epstein was at the cutting edge of science. A lot of the stuff we're seeing right now about the automation of certain aspects of the diagnostic process, or like AI implementation or integration with medical records for diagnostics tools and such. He had a company like that. You can read the subpoena or the deposition, the original deposition, because he wanted to house the server farm for that project on Little St. James. And I don't know if it ever got off the ground, but everywhere you look with the Epstein story, he's connected to the, the scientific oligarchy, right? This new priest class that's forming, especially since COVID has come around, right? I mean, Epstein was working with Boris Nikolic, exchanging money with Bill Gates. He was with the people, working on projects with people, proposals with people, funding things with the same people that were part of Operation Warp Speed that gave us the most wonderful health thing, the COVID-19 vaccine, right? Epstein was part of that. And if you recall, he wanted to seed the planet with his DNA in his New Mexico property, Zorro Ranch, by using his DNA to impregnate all these women, probably girls, more than 20 at a time. He had a number, to make little Epstein clones running around the world. For what purpose, we don't know. And isn't that an awfully strange thing to be into for a man that has no children? Right? But where it really gets interesting, guys, and I'm going to, a few more minutes, but I'm going to use this as a segue into a future part 2. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but it's just too much for this video, and I want to end it off on a good note. I think this is a good video. Informative. I just packed a bunch. It's crazy. I've been trying to pack this into like a workable piece of content for a while, and I just did it on the fly better than I ever anticipated. But we're going to segue into a different sort of topic that this also falls into that I'm going to cover more extensively at a future date. So we see Kamala Harris buddying up with the tech sector, the right wing buddying up with the Peter Thiel contingent of the tech sector. Big tech is playing a bigger and bigger and bigger role. It's infiltrating everything in the civilian domain, in the military domain. The main strategic aspect of dominance, the thing that's required right now, is the ability to adapt to a rapidly evolving tech and science landscape, and the ability to apply new innovations of new tech quicker. In fact, all the projections that I've read, ranging from RAND to other military groups, think tanks, Army War College, you name it, okay, Ministry of Defense as well, are basically saying power in the future will be dependent almost solely on a nation's ability to rapidly integrate that technology into society before they become on the receiving end of it, knowing that each of these breakthroughs, technological breakthroughs, are becoming more and more disruptive. Think about the iPhone that changed the world and nobody knew what was coming in 2007 when Steve Jobs was on that stage holding it up, okay? Then some time passed. Yeah, we got big stuff in between then and now, okay? But what was the next like big thing that was on the tier of an iPhone? Probably AI, ChatGPT. People say the hype isn't there, but honestly, it's already revolutionized a lot of people's workflow, daily lives, if they truly take advantage of it. Like me, I don't want to go back to how I used to find info, right? Yeah, you can't use GPT just by itself, but, you know, my point is that the time it takes between breakthroughs is condensing. Every breakthrough is getting more and more disruptive. Soon, it's like every week is going to be a world-changing, society-changing, disruptive technological scientific breakthrough akin to an iPhone every week. How do we adapt to that? We covered, hold on. What is it? If you recall, from my Civil Sanctuary video, if you pull up my Civil Sanctuary video on BitChute, Rockfin, YouTube, I covered Between Two Ages, written by the National Security Advisor Jimmy Carter, back in the day. He's a big boy involved in all the, he basically just lays it all out. This is a book you want to read. Between Two Ages, one of the richest insights, it provides, essentially. And well, anyway, without getting into it, I gotta stop myself in the act. I can't get into it here. Watch Civil Sanctuary. Everything I'm telling you here is essentially outlined here, a constant state of technological whiplash will result from the near constant disruptions that come as a byproduct of rapidly evolving technology becoming exponential. Thus, people lose the ability to recognize what's real, what's not, what's factual, what's not factual, etc., that they just give up and they give over control. Fuck it, just tell me what's real and what's not. Tell me what to do and what not to do. Tell me if this is the right way or the wrong way. That's what's Zbigniew Brzezinski, the man often cited as having a crystal ball set. And all of this is related to the ongoing Smart City program, which is paramount to the overarching technocratic march to a Great Reset, New World Order, Fourth Industrial type. And note that this is all the undercurrent of the Kamala Harris and the right-wing Peter Thiel type. It's very irrelevant right now, even if it's not all the way up to the surface. And like I said, you see how these things are connected. I was researching the Flannery, California Forever billionaire city last year. And then this happens. Kamala Harris, Trump almost gets shot in the face. Biden goes, it just falls off a plane and into the wrong plane, disappears. Now we got Kamala. And of course, Kamala is connected to this technocratic, weird, smart city contingent of Silicon Valley luminaries that are trying to build a city over in the state that Governor Newsom is the governor of, and uses the strategist, the advisor, Brian Brokaw, who's advising the billionaire Utopia City as well. That's Kamala Harris. Something's interesting happening here, and then things get even more interesting when you realize that perhaps, and this was the thesis of my last one, I'll leave it off here, the video I intended to make, when you look at the California Forever plan for their city, sustainable energy, solar, wind, etc., okay, and you look at the broader picture of the militarization of the civilian domain, the homeland is no longer a sanctuary concept. The idea that we have to secure the homeland, starting with our outdated military bases. Isn't it interesting that the California Forever plan, Flannery Associates started buying all that land the same year that Travis Air Force Base initiated their modernization initiative? And then what's better for modernization, and part of that modernization is the utilization of Silicon Valley startup tech companies. Like I said, condensing the pipeline, the time it takes to get cool stuff out in the battlefield to save America. I was wondering, are we looking at a covert partnership? Because when you read these reports, you realize that like these weird hybrid structures that mix military and civilian functions of daily life is kind of like the intuited proposal or proposed resolution seen across all these strategic trend documents that I've been reading for the last 2 years. So when the Flannery story came out, I said, that sounds like exactly what you would do if I was the guy in charge of the military reading these reports. Create militarized cities. But it doesn't appear like that at all. Because remember, the militarization of today isn't M16s and tanks. Not much longer, at least. It's this. Dual use. Protecting us from the most deadly of attacks. Cyber polygon. Cyber attack. Anybody could do that. A non-state actor could do that. But how are you going to protect us from that if that's a threat situated in the civilian world? You have to sneakily and covertly militarize the civilian domain by establishing an unprecedented partnership between the military and cutting-edge technology companies, dare I say, the biggest names in Silicon Valley. Then you come up with a sustainable cutting-edge city idea that happens to just match the general trajectory of smart cities. And the funding for this project is coming from people that very much discuss smart cities and like smart cities and want walkable cities and have made strides toward achieving or furthering such plans. And on top of that, I don't know if you know this, the military has publicly announced that they are following the lead of the private sector in Silicon Valley for what they call the Installation of the Future Initiative, IOTF, Internet of Things, Installation of the Future. The military is saying that they are adopting the Smart City program. I'm saying that Flannery Associates, the close proximity, the covert connections between the two groups, and now Kamala Harris, presidential candidate, and the weird uniform ignorance between everybody that should know about this, including the military who's being surrounded. I'm wondering if there's a covert partnership being established, and it has to do with Homeland Security and creating a buffer for Travis Air Force Base, a natural geographical buffer, using a spread out city, which, by the way, recent RAND reports have also been talking about spreading out military equipment so splash damage of kinetic blast doesn't hit like every airplane fleet at once. You see how this all coalesces into like a really beautiful picture? That beautiful in a sense of comprehensive, symmetrical. I can see it clearly. I hope you can. Not as clear as me, because I've spent a ridiculous amount of hours and a year looking into all of this, and I hope to dig deeper. What I'm saying is the partnership, all the signs are there that they're hiding something. There's something missing. There's something we're not being told. And I'm wondering if it's some type of partnership between Silicon Valley and the military. And what better way to bring that forth other than buying all the land ahead of time and then having a big ally win the White House? I'll talk to you next time. Thank you. Remember to like, share, and subscribe, guys. Hit me on Rockfin and BitChute, bitshoot.com/memoryhold. Linktree is in the description. I don't want you to lose the Linktree, guys. All right, bookmark that-ish. I need you. I don't want to lose you. Don't let me lose myself to the void. I got a 2-week suspension on YouTube. How many of them are going to see me on here? Hopefully all of them. Hopefully my words of advice, find me on Rockfin, find me on BitChute, didn't fall on deaf ears, and they'll make their way to this video, because actually it's of way higher quality with way better information than I thought I was going to be able to produce at this hour. Guys, the Kamala Harris connection is fucking crazy. Like, share, and subscribe. Spread this video out. Check on Substack. Give me till tomorrow afternoon to put it up, alright? I'll see you later.
Upper wall. So if you're in the Pentagon watching this, do not put in the chat.
And other national labs, and I get up there and Clancy falls asleep. All right? And it's not like someone in class or at one of the Pentagon meetings. He's trying to are the initial maneuver platform of the Army. So let's go back to what General Perkins said. What about the 156 installations where readiness begins? All right. So a couple of months ago, before I'd heard General Perkins, our team said installations are the initial maneuver platform of the Army. So let's go back to what General Perkins said this morning. And he talked about maneuver, and he gave this great example of uploaded tanks in the Fulda Gap ready to maneuver out of their motor pool and fight the enemy. It's no different today, all right? Maneuver begins on our installations. Boy, your teenage daughter is going to get the modified pictures of your body coming home on the day you deploy. How does that complicate you getting out of the installation? Are you now fixed and able to maneuver? From the new battlefield framework, the second major trend, all right? The diagram multi-domain battle, it's in the books and the work that TRADOC has done. So in the past, air-land battle, you've got rear, close, what is that? Deep, close, and rear. Thank you. Look at the future of the Army generating force in the installations where that power is generated from. We're going to look at the 12 trends. You can talk about all of these individually. You know, I spent a lot of time as the Army's Chief Sustainability Officer. General Perkins talked about climate change, or talked about Fort Jackson, okay?
climate change, one, it's real, we're causing it, and we're sure about it, okay? It's not going to go away.
Our organization's more future ready, because that's what this is about. So we're kicking off a great afternoon focused on one of the exploding technology developments affecting humans today. And that is the operationalization of the Internet of Things and what it looks like where we live and how we interact within smart cities. And we have several great presenters that are going to talk to us about this. And you're like, well, what does smart cities have to do with the Army? Our first presenter today is going to answer you that question. Mr. Richard Kidd is the Deputy Assistant Secretary of the Army for Strategic Integration. Mr. Kidd, in this role, he leads.
This is how the technocracy, the control grid is erected. We're going to cover that more extensively. Military bases have adopted the Civilian Domain Smart City Paradigm Program Initiative. They're following their lead, and coincidentally, just as one of our critical military bases that handles our main adversary, China, begins its modernization program, begins to adopt its own sort of installation of the future program, the name for the military version of the Smart City program, every base transforming into a smart city. Smart city investors tied to Kamala Harris, presidential candidate, secretly build a city and surround a military base.